At the tail end of last week, we published a video explaining why, in light of the US presidential election outcome, those of you wanting to get solar panels installed on the roof of your home might want to act sooner rather than later. And today, in a similar vein, I'm going to be asking a similar question. What should you do if you're in the market for an electric vehicle? What should you do if you've been shopping around doing your research? And what will the future of the EV purchase incentives currently offered by the US federal tax credit program be? The answers are pretty clear. By now. So, it's been just about 2 weeks since the US presidential election, and yes, there's another US-centric video right here on the channel. I'm sorry, I promise that we're going to be doing more globally applicable videos really soon, but the reality is right now that there are some sweeping changes coming to the US that could really throw a wrench into the EV and clean energy world. Today, it's the EV tax credit program, which, as of the time of writing this script and filming it the Thursday before it drops, is almost certainly about to be axed by incoming President Donald Trump. I know. It is hard to follow the swathe of bad news coming right now if you want a cleaner, greener, safer and smarter world. And I know many of you are still living in the how bad can it be world. Honestly, I was there for a very short time yesterday, but I am most certainly back in the holy crap mindset today. But look, pull up a chair, do what you gotta do to keep your mental health optimal. As with my solar panel video last week, I'm gonna talk about what the tax credits for EVs have made possible, discuss what's currently in place, and what we already know about the changes coming. The crux here is that if you want to make some kind of EV purchase decision, you're probably going to want to act sooner rather than later if you are in the US. And if you are elsewhere in the world, well, things could be about to get worse thanks to the knock-on effects of what's happening in the US. Let's start with where we are right now. Under the US federal tax code, and thanks to acts signed by President Biden, EV tax credits apply on qualifying US-made electric vehicles with the amount you're able to claim at the point of sale on new cars, dependent on the vehicle's price, your income level, and how much of the vehicle was made in the US using parts supplied either by US companies or sourced from companies with agreements with the US. For example, today, if you buy a Ford Mustang Mach-E, you'll be able to claim a full $7,500 off its sticker price at the point of sale, provided your income is below the threshold set out under tax law, because the Ford Mustang Mach-E, while made in Mexico, qualifies for federal tax credits thanks to agreements between the US and Mexico, and the fact that Ford sources its battery packs from approved suppliers in the US and associated countries rather than shipping its batteries from half a world away. Imported cars, like last year's model year Hyundai Ioniq 5, for example, aren't eligible for tax credits because they're made overseas using overseas battery packs and non-US production facilities. Next year's Ioniq 5 will be eligible for partial credits under current tax law, but it won't be eligible for the full $7,500 because of where some of the materials in its battery pack are sourced. I know that I just gave a very poor, very half-assed explanation of current rules here, but honestly, I could make an entire 20-minute video on just that topic and still not cover all the edge use cases. Suffice to say, right now, it's kind of complicated, but for most people buying a new EV today, there are at least some tax credits available if that car was made in the US or Mexico or Canada, and even if it wasn't, if you're leasing rather than buying, there are also loopholes today that allow the tax credits to apply anyway. Then, thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, used EVs are also now eligible for tax credits at the point of purchase. Again, there are some caveats. You can't buy a used EV from a private seller and then apply the tax credits. It must be a registered dealer, and there are limits on vehicle price, your eligibility in terms of income, and a few other rules to bear in mind. But as long as you are eligible and the price isn't too high and you're buying from a certified dealer, you can claim a tax credit at the point of sale at many used car dealerships across the US. I would love to say it's all used car dealerships, but the sad reality is that some dealerships just have refused to sign up for the system, saying that it's too complicated. Others just refuse to use it because EVs or government or because the sky is blue. Conspiracy. Depending on which vehicle you buy, the tax credits for your used EV can be as much as $4,000, which could be pretty substantial. In fact, I've known friends and family buy EVs in the last year that probably would not have been able to have purchased them had the tax credit not existed, and they are all now happily not polluting and driving EVs instead. But, and in keeping with the previous video, let's look at what happened the last time President Donald Trump was in the White House. Under the previous Trump administration, which, as I've noted in the previous video, was pretty chaotic, EV tax credits weren't ended, but they were the target of political ire multiple times throughout the first Trump White House. It's generally accepted that they existed and continued to exist because of the legislative hurdles that existed to eliminate them. During the latter part of the first Trump presidency, significant changes on Capitol Hill, namely a change in power in the House, effectively helped to keep some of the worst tendencies of the Trump administration in check. But that didn't stop President Trump from including anti-EV and anti-green energy rhetoric in his stump speeches for his 2020 presidential campaign. He made it blatantly clear during the campaign he didn't support or like electric vehicles or wind turbines or, in fact, any kind of energy that wasn't fossil fuel-based, and pledged multiple times to drill, baby, drill. He regularly made fun of EVs during his stump speeches, spouting nonsense about charging times and range and being left stranded. He claimed that forcing people to switch to EVs would be bad for the economy and the country as a whole. We also saw the EPA under Republican control roll back emissions requirements for vehicles. We saw it side with oil and gas executives and try to stop California from setting its own emissions requirements and EV mandates. California ultimately succeeded in keeping its ability to control its own rules in that regard, in fact, long after the first Trump presidency ended, but as I'm about to detail this time around, there are bigger and more powerful plans afoot. It's absolutely true that the revised Biden-era tax credits for EVs were the fairest they've ever been, and through caps, ensured that the ultra-wealthy weren't allowed to make use of them. They enacted caps on the maximum MSRP of vehicles with different levels depending on if it was a car, an SUV, or a pickup truck. But as candidate Trump has promised time and time again, he wants to gut the federal government and remove what he says are the, quote, Green New Scam, end quote, programs enacted by the current outgoing administration. And on Thursday morning, as I wrote this script before filming it, reporting from Reuters claims that yes, soon after gaining power, President Trump's administration plans on using what's known as a reconciliation bill to swiftly, quickly kill the EV tax credit program. And this is devastating. For those who don't know, reconciliation bills have special rules that allow administrations to make adjustments to the federal budget in ways that allow measures to be passed with a simple majority of less than the 60% of the vote required for regular budgetary rules, meaning no Democratic support will actually be needed to pass this into law. As per Reuters and other outlets on Thursday, multiple sources close to the transition team say that ending the EV tax credit is at the top of their priority list, along with all of the other things that I'm not going to go into right now, but which the campaign was heavily run on. Given that the head of Trump's transition team has deep ties to the fossil fuel industry, and candidate Trump indeed pledged to enact pro-fossil fuel legislation if fossil fuel companies and executives donated enough money to his campaign, It all, and I'm going to swear here, points to a metaphorical shit show for cleaner, greener transportation. Sources close to Elon Musk and Tesla? Well, they have also confirmed that Elon Musk is in favour of these tax credit bans, having previously noted that while the tax cuts would be a little painful for Tesla, they would be devastating for the rest of the EV industry. And look, I know that I'm going to get hate mail for this. Heck, I've had literal death threats and doxing attempts for far less. But this needs to be said. If you are someone who runs a company in an industry and you're getting into bed to be, and I am quoting Elon Musk here, first buddies with the White House, isn't it anti-competitive and monopolistic to push for the end of something that will undoubtedly gut your own competition? Yeah, I thought so. This is what corruption looks like, folks. News of the planned immediate ending of EV tax credits has sent EV stock tumbling already. Tesla, Rivian and many other automakers who are producing increasingly large numbers of EVs around the world have found the end of Thursday's market pretty devastating. I don't know what the markets did on Friday or after that point because I'm not filming this in the future. But the market most certainly reacted quickly and harshly to Reuters reporting. It's also fair to say that while funding already allocated for EV recharging programs and incentives are going to be nigh on impossible to claw back, you can bet the unspent money from the IRA and Chips and Science Acts will be backtracked come the third week of January. Which leaves us where? In a very uncertain future. I have personally witnessed an increase in anti-EV rhetoric, both in terms of our comment section and anecdotally by talking to other folks. There is an increase in antisocial behaviour at Tesla supercharger sites as Tesla owners fume about non-Tesla EVs trying to use the charging network. And we're seeing more and more charging stations getting vandalised. And I can't tell if that last thing is a direct result of anti-EV sentiment or just focused crime. But if I had to guess, I'm going to suggest it's a mixture of both. Suffice to say, EV ownership in the US is becoming more challenging at times than it once was, and I think it's going to get worse. But that doesn't mean that we should give up. Many people have the theory that because Elon Musk is now so closely connected with candidate Trump, we'll see EV-friendly policies kept or pushed. But, how do I put this? If you are in that camp, I would like to quietly remind you that very rich people with lots of money do what they have always done through history. Protect their own interests before others. We can no longer rely on Elon Musk any more than you can rely on a leopard not to eat your face. But there is still hope. There is still time. If you have been on the fence about getting behind the wheel of an EV and you have a place to charge it, now is the very best time to make that purchase decision. And as I noted in our solar panel video too, this does come with the caveat that you have the financial stability to make that large purchase decision. EVs purchased between now and the inauguration will still importantly be eligible for any EV tax credits, and any rollbacks will take a while to pass into law because reneging them can't be a day one executive action. It requires Congress, even with a reconciliation bill. And let's not forget too that many US states with their own incentive programs are likely to keep them running, at least initially. So all hope is not completely lost. Used EVs purchased at participating dealerships will also be eligible for point-of-sale tax credits, meaning you're still able to get behind the wheel of an EV with help from Uncle Sam. But if the credits mean the difference between you buying a used EV today and a gas car down the road in 6 months, well, you're going to have to sit down and work out just where your finances are, what your priorities are, and what the future might look like. And if you're already an EV driver, I can't tell you what to do. Maybe upgrading your EV now is a good choice for you personally, but I would suggest, unless there's something substantially wrong with your current EV, I might advise holding it off. After all, it would be a financially more prudent decision, and with incoming changes to tax code expected across the board, not to mention purchase tariffs, you might need that extra money. I had hoped I wouldn't need to make this video, and I also unfortunately expected we might need to. And if you're outside of the US, you might be wondering what this all has to do with you. But the sad reality is that if automakers in the US start to lower their EV production and change their plans to tie in with a pro-fossil fuel agenda to make more gasoline vehicles because they can make more money on them, their global portfolios will change as well. And that will mean fewer EVs to choose from, higher purchase prices, less budget-oriented options, and a much more heavily polluting future. I don't need to tell you what that will do for the planet. But as I said earlier, there is still hope. If ever there was a time to join your local EV community, it is now. Join our Discord. Find other people in your area who drive EVs. Write to legislators. Be advocates. Help change the path towards a less anti-EV future. Sure, we are steering a big ship, but we can all pull on the tiller. And if you're wanting more info on becoming a citizen activist, well, let us know in the comments. We have been contemplating a new series talking about things like that, but if it's something you're not interested in, let us know and we won't make it. So until next time, stay safe, be kind, make smart decisions, keep evolving. Thanks for joining me today, and if you've got some thoughts, make sure you leave them in our Discord chat room, our Patreon page, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They are some of the more than 1,500 people who help fund this channel through Patreon and YouTube, covering our bills, paying our team, and making sure that we can remain 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. There are a range of different tiers that you can sign up for from as little as $1 a month, or if you pay yearly, just over $10 a year. A huge welcome to our newest supporters: Alan Brim, Jim, Sarah Horlock, full name, Todd Johnson, Roderick, Stuart Despain, Rupert Ronson, Larry Phoenix, Darla, Wendy Kelly Bundenbaum, and Kay. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member for your moment of fame. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll also find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations, and we even have a good old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at, address also linked below. And of course, if you're in need of some swag, you'll find our swag store in the down below. We've also got some great content coming up, so make sure you're subscribed on PeerTube or YouTube, and we'll see you soon. We make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you want more, the mighty algorithm thinks you'll like this video, but we also think this one is well worth a look. See you soon, and as always, keep evolving.